Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you all for joining us for Jeff Newkirk's presentation on the 13 Absolutes of Leadership. Jeff is actually someone who I heard speak at a chamber seminar, and I told him he needed to do one here because he did such a great job. So to tell you a little bit about him, he was in the corporate finance world for over 30 years. Finance, sitting in board meetings, making tough decisions, he decided to strike out on his own and found Understandable Solutions in November of 2019. In 2021, he joined Blanton and Blanton Advisors. So Barry just gave a great seminar in this very room just a little bit ago. So he was seeking growth, improvement in financial performance, as well as leadership. So while financial performance is incredibly important, he believes that there's always a story behind the numbers. He works closely with his clients to understand their story. I need your help, Jeff, okay? Need to understand my story. In May 2020, he published his first book, Understandable Solutions, Confessions of a Forensic Financialist. He followed up with this podcast, The Forensic Financialist and Understandable Solutions, where he discusses business issues and current events. So Jeff, I'm excited to hear your talk. Here's your Newkirk.
Thank you. Great to be here. I'm so excited to talk about one of my favorite subjects, leadership. This has been a great day. We've learned a lot of great information. I'm a numbers guy. I'm an accountant, finance by trade, but leadership is what really gets me excited. And I spent a lot of time in the corporate world and a lot of experience with great leaders, great managers. Managers aren't necessarily leaders. I've also had a lot of experience with those who thought they were leaders, but really not, and those who were just not leaders. So what I want to talk about today is what I feel are the 13, and I call them absolutes, but 13 characteristics, qualities, or absolutes, as I like to refer to them, necessary to be a strong leader. So some key points today, I'm not going to read this, but I want you to understand that leadership is a process. And I believe that we can all be strong and effective leaders. Doesn't mean you want to be. Doesn't mean that you were born with the ability to learn quickly to be a leader. But if you want to be a leader, I don't care what you were born with or how your environment is, you can be a strong leader. It just takes time. That's all. And the other thing I wanted to mention here is no one person is the perfect leader. We all are growing. We all have to learn continuously. That's how we get better. That's how we get to be a better leader. It's a process. And none of us are perfect. And I believe there's a scale, a level of leadership that you achieve and work towards. So on that note, let's get going. Our agenda, we're going to define leadership. We can define it different ways. There are some really good leadership gurus out there that have wonderful, meaningful definitions of leadership. We're going to talk about the levels of leadership, strength and effectiveness. And I'm a big follower of John Maxwell, Patrick Lencioni, Jim Collins. They all talk about levels of leadership. I agree with those levels. And then we're going to get into the 13 absolutes. Now, one of the things that's so important to me is that when you leave here in about 50 minutes, it is so imperative that you leave here with at least one nugget of useful information that you can apply right away. So if that doesn't happen, you got to tell me, because that means I didn't do my job. Okay? At least one nugget of useful information. Okay, let's define leadership. So Peter Drucker, one of the most famous authors in business, says leadership is an achievement of trust. Would anybody dispute that? Good definition. Simon Sinek, do we have anybody here that knows and follows Simon Sinek? Good stuff, really good stuff. Leadership is about making people feel safe. Would anybody dispute that? No. And then John Maxwell. Leadership is influence when people willingly follow you. Dale Carnegie, the ability to guide others by example. So what is the common theme here? Trust, feel safe, influence, guiding others. It's not about you, right? It's about everybody but you. And how can you influence and add value to everybody else? That's becoming a true, strong, and effective leader. Make sense so far?
Yes.
Okay. Kind of hard to disagree with this stuff. The scale of leadership. So I think you can start out at what I would call level 0, and then work out up to level 5. Level 0 is, so reading this chart, the second column is how you see yourself. How do you see yourself in regards to leadership? How others see you. So at level 0, it's only about you, right? You have no desire to lead. You just want to do your thing, and that's it. That's okay. That's okay. Just because you might have the ability to be a leader doesn't mean you want to be a leader. That's okay. That's okay. And others would see you as no interest in leading. So it progresses all the way to level 5. The goal, if you want to be a strong and effective leader, is to get to level 5. And I think John Maxwell, Jim Collins, Electrical Engineering, we're all agreeing with this. So at level 5, that's where you're serving the masses. People are following you because you're positively influencing them beyond geography, right? Not just in this room, but people across the world want to know what you have to say because they think what you're saying is pretty cool and pretty meaningful. But it's a process to get there. So what I would ask you to do as we talk today, and I think everybody in this room is a leader. Everybody here is a leader. You're a leader in the community. You're a leader in your business. You're a leader in your home. You're a leader. So where are you on this scale? Because if you're between level 1, 0, 1, and 2, 3's kind of in the middle. But early on, you're focused on you, right? You haven't quite learned that true, strong, effective leadership is about them. It's about everybody but you. Make sense? Now let's get into the absolutes. And the way you read this is you start over at level 0, and I'm going to show you in each one what I would say is the absolute. At level 6, where we want to be, when it's all about them. But starting out at level 0, when it's more about you, right? So it's a progression. You got to learn. You got to get there. So the first absolute, what I would call moving from unprincipled to a good heart. Now, what does that mean? What does it mean to have a good heart? Well, it means that we have things like good moral character, we're honest, we have integrity, and we respect others. And it's not like sometimes, it's all the time. And I'd be willing to bet everybody in this room has been challenged in this area. I can recall back in April of '98, so earlier in my career, I was a consultant, and I was hired by my client to do an evaluation of a business they wanted to buy. So my job was to come back with a range of value that they could offer this business owner. And I knew that it was going to be contentious. I knew that because I knew that the business owner was going to want a lot more than what my client was going to be willing to pay. And I was okay with that because I knew that my analysis was going to be as accurate as I could make it. I was going to do my research. I was going to do my homework. So when the presentation came and I delivered the information, my client said, all right, that was good, Jeff. Really appreciate your work. Thanks for doing that. The business owner ripped me apart. Totally ripped me apart. And that's what I learned right away. Man, you got some thick skin. You're gonna get some. So, but it was okay because I knew what I did was the right thing and I did the best that I could. And I thought it was pretty accurate information. A couple days later, this is where the story gets interesting, and we're all faced with this. I know we all have been down this road before. Client calls me up. Jeff, great analysis, really appreciate what you did. Man, we want to buy that business. Is there any way that you can go back, sharpen your pencil a little bit, and see if we can come up with some numbers closer to what business owner is looking for? So I had to make a decision. So that was a lucrative contract for me, and it was going to be even more lucrative going forward. But I said, no, I can't go back and sharpen my pencil. My pencil was already sharp. Now, if you want to go and buy that business for whatever you want to pay for it, that's your business. That's your decision. But I know I'm good with my analysis. If you want to continue to work with me, awesome, I'm here. But I'm not going to cross that line in the sand. We all have been down that road. All of us. Who has not, right? And it's up to you. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with that situation when that comes up to you? Being a strong, effective leader, hold your ground. That was a tough lesson learned for me. I lost a lot of money, but I feel good about it. I feel like that was the right decision. Number two, self-serving. We heard this earlier from Carla, to serving others. Okay, being a strong and effective leader, it's not about what's in it for us, right? It's about what can we do for everybody else. Now, Richard Branson puts it perfectly. He says, as an organization, we have to focus on our employees first. Then we focus on our customers. Then we focus on our shareholders. Why is that? Why is that? Well, the culture starts at the top. And if we have a very strong culture, everybody's on the same page, employees are going to be happy. Happy employees are going to bring in more customers. Got more customers, going to turn into increased shareholder wealth. I was giving the same presentation, that was a couple months ago. Guy sitting in the front row said, "You are wrong. You are wrong." I was like, "Oh, all right, game on, let's go." So I didn't say that, but I said, "Okay, well, let's hear, what you're thinking." He said, "It's about customers first. It's not about employees. If you don't have a customer, why would you have an employee?" So I said, "Well, good thought. Appreciate where you're going with that. However, it's about culture. It's about the culture that you are going to set as the owner of that business. And you have to decide what kind of culture that's going to be. Is it going to be a culture that's driven only by your customers and the employees are off to the side? Or is it going to be a culture that's based on what you can provide for your employees as a good, safe working environment? And then they're going to bring in more customers. Pretty simple. It's not complicated. He stood his ground. So did I. We agreed to disagree. And that's okay. But I firmly believe it's about serving others. And when you're a business owner, it starts with the people you have responsibility for. You can add value to them every single day. Every single day, you have that opportunity. On the other hand, you also have the opportunity to take value away, right? Make them feel worse, less important. They're going to have turnover. And it's going to cost you more. and your business is not going to do as well. That all makes sense? So I'm going to try and have in every absolute, I can't see it here, but I'm a big proponent of read. Gotta read. So in every absolute, I'm going to try and have a suggestion for a book for us to all read, and then some quotes that go along with each absolute. So in that one, the book is Leaders Eat Last. So if you haven't read it, Simon Sinek, pick it up. It's a good one. Leaders eat last. Everybody else goes first. Good stuff. Number 3. Woe is me. Woe is me. You ever worked in a place where you're walking down the hall and you say, hey, Joe, how's it going? All right, rough weekend. It's Monday. No, we gotta have a positive attitude. Gotta have a positive attitude. When you're negative, it's contagious. When you're positive, it's contagious. Right? I always find it a challenge when I'm walking down the hall, I say hello to somebody, and they either don't respond at all, or they just are like, hey, how's it going? How's the day? Or when you go in a convenience store and you go up to the counter and say, hey, how's the day going? Okay. No, get a smile on their face. Do what you can to pass on that positivity. Life's too short. And as a strong and effective leader, you will have more of a propensity to get followers and listen, and they will listen to what you're saying when you are positive as opposed to negative. Naysayers are going to be all over the place, right? Positive. How do we do that? Well, I have a gratitude journal. It really helps. You know, a long time ago, I thought gratitude journal, what's that going to do? It helps, it works. Write down 3 things you're thankful for every morning. And tomorrow when you write down, it might be the same 3. That's okay. But you're recording every day what you're thankful for. And when you have a grateful heart, it is really hard to be negative. But it's super easy to think about adding value when you have a grateful heart. Exercise your brain, exercise your body, have reminders. I have reminders every day. So in the morning, my phone goes off and says, Jeff, say thanks. In the afternoon, phone goes off, Jeff, say thanks. Why do I do that? Well, because just for that split second, when things are going maybe a little bit more challenging that day, I need a reminder. I need a reminder to say, okay, you know what? Life is good. You have a lot to be thankful for. Say thanks. And exercise our brain, read, exercise our body. I don't know about you, but I got this big COVID cushion that I'm trying to work on. It's been brutal, but we gotta exercise and stay healthy. We heard that this morning from Josh. He's absolutely right. Absolutely right. Book plug here, the last lecture. Anybody read that book?
Yeah.
It's a tough one, but it's good. It's good.
So impactful.
Very impactful. And I love John Wooden. Anybody know who John Wooden is? Coach UCLA. Make each day your masterpiece. That's so profound. Each day we have the opportunity to create a masterpiece. We all have that opportunity. That is pretty cool if we choose to take that on. Number 4, being indecisive and hesitant versus persevering and being accountable. So as a strong and effective leader, we have to do our analysis, right? We have to make decisions that are going to move us forward. But what do we sometimes, especially in numbers, guys, I'm speaking for myself, have a tendency to do? We get mired down in the analysis, and then we don't make the decision. You got to make a decision. You got to determine that you are going to move ahead, move forward with the analysis that you have, And sometimes it's better to make maybe not the best decision as opposed to no decision. People are depending on you. And if you make a mistake, we're going to talk about humility. It's okay to admit it. It's okay. We're human, right? None of us are perfect, but make the decision. Make the decision to move forward. Now, I love this quote from the Rocky movie where he's talking to his son on the street, and son's down, and he says, it's not, we're all going to get hit, right? Life is going to hit us. We're going to have those road bumps, but how are you going to react to it? How soon are you going to get back up from that? Persevere, man. Move forward. Keep going. No quit attitude. Make sense so far? Good stuff? I love this. I mean, I love it. Probably can tell that, huh? Number 5, fear versus being courageous. Brene Brown, anybody familiar with Brene Brown? Good stuff. You can choose courage or you can choose comfort, but you cannot choose both. I agree with that. Anybody read the book by Jen Sincero? It's called You Are a Badass. It's a good one. So, growing up, my mentor was my dad. He was, to me, end all be all. He was a hospital CEO, and I looked up to him. And he always had something to teach. And when he was 32, he accepted a position as the CEO of a hospital in South Chicago. That was in 1964. 2 years later, in 1966, now he's 34 years old, okay? 34 years old, been on the job 2 years. Anybody hear of the notorious mass murderer by the name of Richard Speck? Richard Speck, on July 14, 1966, tortured and murdered 8 nurses at the hospital that my dad was the CEO at. Been on that job 2 years. He could have decided, I'm out of here. Or he could have had some courage and gone to the families, dealt with the media, worked with law enforcement. And that's what he did. And we didn't talk about it at home, but that was very courageous. And every 5 years, when he had to go before the Illinois State Parole Board, he did it. He did it. He didn't back down, not for 1 second. I always thought, wow, that's courageous. That's my dad. Number 6. Gotta watch the time here. I have a tendency to ramble on. So, poor communication versus good communicator. How do we be a good communicator? Well, communication is not just the quantity of communication, it's quality of communication. It's both. And that takes place verbally and written. So we have to be genuine. People can see right through it. You're not genuine. You're not authentic. You're trying to be something you're not. They'll figure it out. Just be you. Because who you are is awesome. It's awesome. Be happy and content with who you are and what you bring to the table. And know, if you're trying to be somebody else, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. I promise you. Connect with people. Talk on their level. How many times you come across somebody and they're like talking up here? You're like, dude, bring it down. I don't even know what you're saying. Okay, just talk. Try to connect with somebody on their level. Be compassionately direct. So what I mean by this is, I've been guilty of being too direct. So I don't mince words. I mean, I'm going to tell you exactly what's going on. But at the same time, I never want to be offensive. I always want to be compassionate, thinking, how is this going to impact my audience? How is this going to be received by who I'm speaking with? You have to keep that compassion and keep it simple. I'm going to use my dad as another example. On Saturdays, he would take me into the hospital. when I was little. And we walked down the halls, and I remember this distinctly. He would stop by nurses' stations or somebody's office, and he would say, "Hey, Joe, how's it going today? Hey, didn't your son just graduate? How'd that graduation go?" Then you walk down the hall and see somebody else. "Hey, Susan, hey, isn't your daughter getting married next year?" He connected. People wanted him to walk through the hospital. People wanted to know, what did he have to say? It wasn't like, here comes, his name was Harlan Newkirk. Here comes Harlan Newkirk, I'm gonna dive in my office, I don't want to stop by. That wasn't it at all. And I was, the first time you don't really, as a kid, you don't really, that doesn't really mean anything. But over and over and over, I saw that and I was like, dang, that's pretty cool. Because he followed us, he connected, he was genuine. I asked him one day, how do you remember everybody's name? And he said, when you meet somebody for the first time, you repeat their name in silence 3 times. And I can tell you from personal experience, when I do that, I have a better than 50-50 shot of remembering. But when I don't do that, it is like a 5% shot of remembering somebody's name. Okay. Book plug, everyone communicates, you connect. John Maxwell. Good stuff. Number 7, undisciplined versus being disciplined. What does that mean? It means that we maintain control of our behaviors. We have some structure in our lives. We're consistent with our thought patterns and our behavior, and we have some routines. That doesn't mean that you have to get up every day at 5 o'clock and do X, Y, and Z and do everything the same every day. No, but it does mean that you have some routine and some consistency, and people will know what to expect from you. And your behavior is sort of low key, if you will, making sure that you always communicate, always relate to those in your audience or who you're working with. The best example I can think of was somebody that just became totally undisciplined, but was an exceptional leader, was Woody Hayes. Anybody know who I'm talking about? Woody Hayes, would you agree with me? Woody Hayes could have been the governor of Ohio. He was the football coach at the University of Ohio, very successful. You probably heard of him. And the Gator Bowl in 1978, Ohio State was losing. Clemson player came over to the sidelines. What did Woody Hayes do? Punched him. Head coach punched the player. What in the world happened? He lost his job. He lost all kinds of credibility because of that one act. He totally was undisciplined. Totally. And he had the world by the tail, really. So we have to be disciplined. So don't go out and punch anybody. All right, book plug, Eat That Frog. Anybody hear that book? Good book. Helps us get those goals down on paper and tackle what the big stuff is, keep everything in perspective. Number 8, braggadocious, have some humility. If you meet somebody and they are talking about themselves the whole time, I did this, I did that, I could have gone to a D1 school and get a football scholarship, but I broke my ankle. If you have to say all that stuff, it's probably not true, right? Let your actions speak for themselves. You don't have to go and brag about how great you're doing because people are already going to know it. You're not going to have to say anything. They're already going to know how great you are. You got to have some humility. How do we do that? Our actions speak louder than our words. Teach humility to others. Make sure that they know what it's like to be vulnerable and to be humble. And when you make a mistake, admit it. Don't try to cover it up. A lie and another lie and another lie and another lie doesn't work out. I promise you, it does not work out. Having humility means a lot. Probably one of the more important absolutes. Anybody here of Nick Wojcicki? Tell me about it.
Actually, I think I saw a video of what was able to do, had no legs and was able to swim. He's just an incredible.
He is an incredible individual. Gentleman born with no arms, no legs, and he is making a difference in this world. He is going out and inspiring so many people by what he can bring with his heart and his brain, and showing everybody that it doesn't take 2 arms and 2 legs to make it happen. So if you want inspiration, Google Nick Wojcicki. His book, the book is Life Without Limbs. It's good stuff. Number 9, lazy versus energetic. So we gotta keep active mentally and physically. Years ago, I was responsible for a wellness center, health and wellness center, and we were interviewing an exercise physiologist. So I was interviewing along with the general manager of the facility. And this person on paper was perfect for the role. Interview, I thought, went great. She left. General manager came back. Her name is Kathy. I said, Kathy, what did you think? I'm like, what do you mean? Great on paper? The interview went well? I thought she was great candidate. Kathy said, she got Snuffleupagus syndrome. I was like, what? What? Anybody know the character Snuffleupagus from Sesame Street? So Snuffleupagus, yeah. What is Snuffleupagus?
He's the big elephant.
That
A
doesn't,
mammoth, he just kind of bumbles
he
along.
just is like a, he didn't have energy, right? He moved slow, lethargic, no energy. And that was Kathy's point, my general manager, saying, you got to bring some energy. You can't act like a Snuffleupagus and expect people to follow you. You got to have some energy. I thought that was an interesting way of putting it. Snuffleupagus syndrome. Brendan Burchard, high performance habits. Anybody here, Brendan Burchard? Good stuff. Good stuff. He talks about having energy. It's one of the main principles we need to have in order to make things happen. I would agree with that, mentally and physically. Number 10, all emotion versus high emotional intelligence. Now, we're all familiar now with having some emotional intelligence. And it hasn't been around that long. It was in 1990, study by John Mayer and Peter Salovey first started the term emotional intelligence. But what does that mean? Well, essentially it means, the easiest way to put it, emotion high, logic low. There's an inverse correlation between your ability to remain emotionally in check versus maintaining logical perspective. So in other words, the more emotional we are, the less we can make a good decision. But if we keep our emotions in check, our ability to process information and make a good decision that's going to help us move forward increases dramatically. But we get all tied up in the emotions. And all you have to do is turn on the news and get emotional. You hear the emotion on the news, you get emotional from listening to the news, it's bad, right? Emotion high, logic low. How do we do that? Be self-aware. Meaning when you feel yourself, you get the feeling in your pit of your stomach, your heart starts to race, take a step back. Keep it all in perspective. And when you know that there's going to be an environment that's going to be very emotional, don't even go, right? Just avoid it if you can. And then if you have the opportunity, create some certainty in your life, because when you get thrown those curveballs or hit that roadblock that you weren't expecting, that's when we have a tendency to break out with emotions. So if you can create some certainty, that will help you keep your emotions in check. Emotion high, logic low. Book plug, Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. Good read. 11, Taskmaster versus Vision 80 Technician 20. Now, the book plug here is the E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Anybody familiar with Michael Gerber? He talks about making sure that as a business owner, you own the business does not own you. That is so easy to have happen because when you get in business for yourself, you start your own business because you're passionate about whatever it is your business is focused on. But then you get involved in accounting, right? Or HR. And it's like, oh man, I'm spending more time on HR and the books than I am in my business. And it begins to take you over. You own your business. Now, I think it's important that we have to remain the vision much higher than completing the tasks, but don't ever forget where you came from. So that's why I had the 20 as a taskmaster or technician, because 80% of your time, vision, good. But don't forget the tasks that got you there or the tasks that you need to complete. Just don't spend a lot of time on it. Delegate if you can, but don't forget about it. All right, number 12, leadership and learning. No growth effort versus what I call the triple L, lifelong learning. 2016 studies show that the most successful people spend over 30 minutes per day on self-improvement. I think that's pretty low. Only 30 minutes per day. It's important for us to always be open to learning. I have a goal of reading a book a week. Fall short on that, but the intention is there, and it happens more times than it doesn't. I would encourage you, no matter what the book is, read. Go to a class, take a seminar. You're here today to learn more. That's all about personal growth and improvement. Important stuff. And finally, having faith. Now, I would say that having faith, for me, is a core value. It's one of those things where I say it's a line in the sand and I will not compromise it. And I'll also say that that has cost me business because I've had people go to my website and see my core values and then call me out and say, I can't work with you because you have faith as a core value. And my response to that person was, I'm sorry that you feel that way. I wish we could work together. I can't let this go. And as a strong and effective leader, it helps keep us accountable. So I'm a Christian. I'm not telling you that you all have to be Christian, but what I'm telling you is you have to have faith in a higher power, because faith in a higher power helps keep you grounded and accountable. And if you don't have any accountability to a higher power, sky's the limit. You can do whatever you want, right? No, you can't. Have faith in something. Have faith in a higher power. All right, these are the 13. I think I'm almost out of time.
We got 5 minutes.
So I'm just going to stop here. You can tell I'm pretty passionate about leadership. I sometimes get that jazzed about working with balance sheets and income statements too, but this stuff I think is so important because we need it. We need it in our community. We need it in our world. We need it in our homes. Our young people need strong and effective leaders. Okay, questions? Yes, sir.
Might want to think about adding a 14.
I'm sorry.
Add number 14.
Okay, let's hear it.
In my own experience, a very important element of leadership is the speed of decision making.
Speed of decision.
And watching over your back and correct mistakes you make.
Excellent. Very good thought. I appreciate that. And I'm the first one to say that there are probably more than 13 years, so I appreciate the feedback. Thank you. Hannah.
Which of these, in your opinion of working with professionals, is the harder for people to adopt or learn to implement in their leadership style?
You know, that's a tough one. I would say it depends on the person, but humility is a real difficult one because when you're in a position of authority, admitting that you've made a mistake for some is really, really tough. Because when you show that vulnerability, there's a risk, right? And the risk is people will look at you differently, which isn't true. Isn't true, but people feel that way.
Shows
It's
your,
fear.
it shows your authenticity when you do that as well.
Yeah, you gotta be authentic, you gotta be genuine, you gotta let people know the real you. So I would say humility's up there. And sometimes we have a tendency to get overly negative, so positive attitude. You know, as we would say, gotta live above the line, right? Other questions? Thoughts?
How can we help you?
How can you help me? This is, you're here, you're here.
Outside of you, how do we help you outside the?
So I work with Blanton Advisors, Barry Blanton Advisors. I'm an executive coach. I'm a business consultant, and I love to have a positive impact on people and people's businesses. So I would love to have an opportunity to help more people. I appreciate you being here. Yes, sir.
Just a quick comment on what you just said. That's what most people do, most leaders do with the people they report to. Not the way around. Always ask their people, their employees, their customers, what can I do for you?
Number two, right? Serving others. Yeah. Because when you ask people, what can I do for you? It helps them feel important. They're valued. And they are. So thank you. Yes, sir.
So I'm raising 2 teenage boys right now. I look at all this list and I'm like, I don't know any of this well. You'd love to give them a head start on kind of getting a handle on these things. Do you have any advice for?
Yes, I do. So quick story on that. So my oldest is 22. He's at Xavier University in Cincinnati. Then we have 20-year-old identical twin girls. Whew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're trying for them, man, we're trying for them.
But what I always said to them was that we had a couple rules at home. No matter what you're doing, it's 100% effort. 100% effort, and you do not quit. The other thing is you're a good sport, and they can relate to being what a good sport is. So my son played football. I said, when you're on the football field, you hit hard, but when you hit them to the ground, you help them up. And the girls, I just said, don't beat each other up too bad. But I mean, it's providing that example, right? It's providing that direction that they understand. It's about connecting with them. And believe me, man, I've made many mistakes as a parent, for sure. We're very lucky that we have 3 great kids. I think they're going in the right direction, but it's about always being on top of it, being engaged with them. I can tell you just a quick story. When my son was, I think was 8, I took him to the high school to get signed up for a youth sport he was going to participate in. And on the way out, it was just the 2 of us. And we were walking down the hall of the high school, and there was a $20 bill on the ground. He picked it up. I said, $20, Dad, this is all for McDonald's. And I said, Peyton, is that your $20? And he looked at me like, oh, here we go. That is such a low skill, right? And he said, no. And I said, did you earn that $20? No. I said, then it's not your $20 to take. He said, but somebody else is going to take it. And I said, that's somebody else's decision. Go put the $20 back. He still went to McDonald's. I'm happy now. But the point is, you got to do the right thing. And when you have the opportunity, believe me, I have a lot of bad parenting moments. That was a pretty good one. But to this day, he remembers it. So, thank you for the question. Other thoughts, questions? Thank you so much for being here.